Thank you. Thank you. Revelation chapter 13, we're going to cover all 18 verses. Revelation chapter 13, beginning at verse 1. It says this. And I saw a beast rise out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns were 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like a leopard, his feet like a bear, his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, but his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered and followed the beast. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth that spake great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to do 42 months. And he opened his mouth unto blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them, and power was given him over every kindred and tongue and nation. Therefore all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of that Lamb which was slain from the beginning of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. If any lead into captivity, he shall go into captivity. If any kill with a sword, he must be killed by a sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, which had 2 horns like the lamb, but he spake like the dragons. And he did all that the first beast could do before him, and he caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he did great wonders, so that he made fire to come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceived them that dwell on the earth by the signs which permitted to him to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make the image of the beast which had the wound of a sword and did live. And it was permitted to him to give a spirit unto the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast should speak, and should cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he made all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath wit count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. It'll be nice to finally settle this 666 nonsense today, won't it? I'll give you an answer the reformers gave, and you'll never have another answer. You never need another answer. The title of our message this morning, Revelation chapter 13, verses 1 to 18, the character and the nature of the beast. This chapter is a commentary on the previous 2 chapters, and it will describe what arose in the church that caused this division between the Latin church and the true church. You'll remember from last week that chapter 12 describes this woman, who is the true church, who is trying to give birth to the man-child, or the true church is trying to birth godly nations. That's what he was trying to do. As the woman, of course, is trying to birth national churches, there's an interruption. Dragon. There's a satanic controversy launched by the Latin church, so that the Latin church becomes larger than the true church. The woman is forced to flee in the wilderness to avoid the satanic principles of the Latin church. This chapter will describe the character and the nature of that Latin beast. And by Latin beast, you'll see that I mean both Roman government and Roman church. There are 4 points to our message this morning, verses 1 to 4, the first beast, political Rome. Verses 5 to 10, the blasphemy of the first beast. Verses 11 to 14, the second beast, ecclesiastical Rome. Ecclesiastic means church. It comes from the Greek word ecclesia, which means church. Church of Rome, or the papacy. Verses 15 to 18, the blasphemy of the second beast. They work together. Political Rome and the church will work together, and they are the Antichrist. Here in this chapter, we read the true character of the Latin church, of whom the 2 witnesses bear testimony. This chapter provides the reader with a full portrait of the Latin Antichrist. It is given in such detail that the true church can identify the beast with precision and clearness. It is written in such a way that no one can make the claim that the Antichrist is too obscure to identify. Here we have a full account of his origin, his character, his achievements, and his duration. Here in this text this morning, we read of how 2 beasts work together. The first beast, which was political Rome, which will force all people to worship the second beast, which is ecclesiastical Rome. And the second beast will support the political agenda of the first beast. Working together, the Latin government and the Latin church are the Antichrist. And we'll see how that works out here in our text. We come to our first point, verses 1 to 4. The first beast, political Rome. Verse 1. And I stood upon the sand in the sea, and I saw a beast rise out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns were 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. We notice here now that the text begins with John standing upon the sand in the sea, sort of in between. This means that John is about to witness a great change, like the change of leaving the sand and going to the sea, or leaving the sea and going to the sand. The Latin church was in the sea, meaning it was in turmoil, having been conquered by the barbarian nations, you'll remember. Now the Latin church is about to move from the sea to land. The beast is moving out of the sea in order to establish itself as a political entity. In our text this morning we have 2 beasts. The first beast is mentioned here in verse 1, and it is the Roman political government, or the civil beast. The second beast we'll get to in verse 11, which is the ecclesiastical beast, or the papacy. The first beast that now arises out of the sea is the formation of political Rome, and likely refers to 800 AD when the Latin state and the Latin church formed an unholy alliance called the Holy Roman Empire. And this is what you always have to remember about the Holy Roman Empire. It wasn't holy, it wasn't Roman, and it wasn't an empire. This took place when Charlemagne was crowned the Holy Roman Emperor on Christmas Day in 800 AD. Now these verses 1 to 10 are describing political Rome. This beast has 7 heads, which we've learned before are 7 mountains, which gives us the location of the beast as Rome, but the 7 heads are also standing for the 7 political forms of government. It has 10 horns, which refer to the 10 kingdoms that had previously conquered Rome. And out of these 10 heads will come political Rome. The crown, you'll notice, does not sit upon his head. It sits upon his horns, because he's more of a beast than he is a king. He bears the name of blasphemy because it is his will to use its political power to enforce the idolatrous blasphemy of the Latin church. Just so you understand, why is political Rome part of the Antichrist? Well, the church can't put people to death. So they need the political government to put to death anybody who the church deems a heretic. So the church will deem somebody a heretic, but they need political Rome to cooperate with that so they can put them to death. So they're working together. Verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like a leopard, and his feet like a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority. In the book of Daniel, remember, he lists these same 3 beasts, which represented at that time 3 conquering empires of Israel, which were Babylon, Persia, and Greece. These here are the same beasts as in Daniel's vision in chapter 7, verse 4 to 6 of Daniel. But here they no longer stand for the 3 ancient empires. These 3 beasts are different than the first 3 because these 3 beasts are rising out of the sea. Its source of authority is the dragon, or Satan. The point is this. The point is that the Babylonians, Persians, and Greeks were 3 separate beasts who did great harm to the church. The Latin Empire will do the same type of damage and therefore is named after all 3 enemies of Israel, the church. In other words, this one beast, Rome, will be as bad or worse as the 3 previous beasts of Daniel's vision. This is political Rome, and political Rome will provide the muscle, the power, the physical force, the seat of the papacy, the throne of the papacy, the authority and the dominion of the papal Antichrist, which the church couldn't have done without Latin Rome civically helping them. Verse 3. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, but his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered and followed the beast. Earlier we learned that Rome would have 7 heads of government. The first 5 heads of government had already passed in 476. John later says that 5 are fallen and 1 is, and the other is yet to come. Chapter 17, verse 10. The 5 fallen were the 5 previous forms of government in Rome. They had had kings, consuls, dictators, deceivers, and military tribunes. All these forms of civil governments had passed before the time of John the Apostle. The one existing in his time was the sixth head, which was the pagan Roman emperors. The deadly wound was inflicted upon the Roman king by the barbarians, who you'll remember overturned the empire and wounded the sixth form of government, namely the pagan emperors. After the barbarian invasion, no one suspected that ancient Rome would ever heal. Most thought the wound was deadly, but we're told here that the deadly wound was healed. And Rome, which everyone thought was dead, would now rise again to even greater heights than before. Rome, of course, was master of Italy and some bordering countries, but the Holy Roman Empire will rule all of Europe. So not only did everybody think Rome died, but once it was healed from its deadly wound, it became even greater. The 10 kingdoms into which the empire was divided by the barbarians after some time was reformed and together formed the Latin states and the Latin church. The Roman Empire was just about at an end. It was in the 600s that the rulers lost all their authority to the Lombards. You'll remember that. But now we're told that that deadly wound was healed, and the Roman government and church is revived under the title of the Holy Roman Empire. Verse 4, and they worshiped the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? The establishing of the Antichrist will take place sometime between 756 and 800. It reached its height in 800, which is the latest date we can date the rise of Antichrist. This will begin the 1260 years of Roman political and religious apostasy. No one, we're told here, will have the power to oppose it, to conquer it, or to resist it. No one is able to overpower it by war. At this point, the true church is in the wilderness and then will remain there until the 1260 years are over. We come to our second point, verses 5 to 10, the blasphemy of the first beast. Verses 5 and 6. And there was given unto him, we're still talking about political Rome, the first beast, a mouth that spake great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to do 42 months. And he opened his mouth unto blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. So the moment that the deadly wound is healed, the 42 months or 1260 years of the apostasy now begin. We date it probably around 800. This beast, we're told, blasphemed the name of God by compelling men, forcing men to worship idols and images, and by forcing these blasphemies against the conscience of worshipers. The first beast is a blasphemer who blasphemes God and his people. He is a civil beast who goes after those who are in the church in order to protect the papal church. We learn that it will not only blaspheme the name of Christ, but tell many lies against the true worshipers of Christ. They will refer to members of the true church as titles like schism, schismatics, traitors, conspirators, fanatics, and rebels to the papal beasts. Verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given him over every kindred and tongue and nation. So this pseudo-political first beast here is the army of the Roman Church. Its goal will be to root out any who oppose the second beast, which is the papal church. It rules over the nations and uses its political power to make religious decisions. This beast will have power over every kindred and tongue and nation. No true church will be able to establish itself without feeling the wrath of this beast. When I say this dual beast, think of Holy Roman Empire. Verses 8 and 9 and 10. Therefore, all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, which was slain from the beginning of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. If any lead into captivity, he shall go into captivity. If any kill with a sword, he must be killed by a sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So we're told here that many will worship the beast out of a fear of its power. Only those, we're told here, who resist are truly the elect of God. They have had their names written in the book of life for all eternity, and therefore cannot be deceived by this papal beast. In the 7th chapter, you'll remember John had a vision of the angels holding back the four winds of the earth until these servants of God were sealed in their foreheads. That vision showed that a mighty beast was coming who would deceive all the nations. But the elect at that time and forever would be set apart, taken to the wilderness and hid until the days of the beast were over. It will be impossible to deceive them either by lying wonders or threats. So that's the end of the first beast. Now we come to the second beast, which is the Roman Antichrist, the papacy, and all the Pope and all his church. Verses 11 to 14, the second beast, ecclesiastic Rome. Verse 11. And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth. Notice it's another beast. It's not political Rome, it's religious Rome. Which had two horns like the lamb, but he spake like the dragon. So now John sees a second beast. You'll remember the first beast was political Rome, and the text explained the political persecution practiced at that time by the Latin government. Now the second beast is ecclesiastical Rome, or the papacy, as the head of the church. You'll notice that Rome here is called the dragon that has two horns because it is both political and religious. It is said to have two horns like a lamb. It has the appearance of a lamb. It appears Christ-like, and it has power. The horn, of course, is a symbol of power, and we're told that this beast has two horns, both religious and political power. This beast takes on the appearance of a lamb, but we're told that he speaks like a dragon. So we have a dragon trying to look like a lamb. Perfect picture of the papacy. A false church taking on the appearance of a true church. It looks like a church, but when you hear it, it sounds satanic. The first beast came out of the sea, political Rome, verse 1. This second beast comes out of the earth, but they act together. The two horns on the same beast. They are accomplices of one another, the Latin government and the Latin church. Two separate beasts, but led by the devil with the same goal of destroying the true church. Verse 12. And he, that's the second beast, did all that the first beast could do before him. They have the same goals, you'll notice. And he caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Here we have a more detailed picture of this second beast. The first and second beast work together. The first beast, the civil government, uses its force to make the Latin church the only church. The Latin church in turn serves the civil government. The civil beast forces all professing Christians to blaspheme by commanding idol worship in the churches of the second beast. The second beast in turn recognizes the authority of the first beast, the civic beast. They work together. Verse 13, and he, that is the papal church, did great wonders, so that he made fire to come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. In other words, we're told that the papacy will use great wonders, lying signs and wonders, says 2 Thessalonians, to deceive many into believing its authority comes from God. They will invent apparitions of Mary and saints and claim to drive out demons. They worship bones and relics of saints. They perform counterfeit miracles of healing with no evidence of healing. The papacy is a false prophet who speaks like a dragon. We're told, and he made fire to come down from heaven to authenticate his divine mission. This fire from heaven appears like the fire that came out of heaven in the days of Elijah, but it's only fake fire, which stands for these fake miracles that they will use to sort of confirm their authority. Verse 14, and deceive them that dwell on the earth by the signs which were permitted to him to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make the image of the beast which had the wound of a sword and did live. So these lying signs and wonders will deceive the most part of the earth. Here we read the truest desire of the papacy. He wants to be worshipped as the Caesars of Rome were worshipped. The papal Antichrist wants the worship that belongs to God to belong to him. To do this, he pretends to play the role of God, such as forgiving sin, granting shortened sentences for sin in purgatory, or declaring some instant access to heaven by declaring some to be saints. He deflects all worship from God. Even Mary is to be more revered than God. And so Italy went from worshiping the emperor to worshiping the pope. The people cannot question the pope, who claims to speak infallibly. So they obey unreasonable, ungodly commands from an authority, just like when Caesar was in charge. Therefore, the pope has become that man of sin, sitting in the temple, showing himself that he is God. The Pope is the most perfect image of the old Roman emperors, claiming the same universal dominion, the same titles, and demanding the same worship of men, even doing so in the same city that the old Roman emperors did it. We come to our final point, verses 15 to 18, the blasphemy of the second beast. Verse 15, and it was permitted to him to give a spirit unto the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast should speak and should cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. The second beast, which is the papacy, gives life to the first political beast. Remember, it was the Pope who crowned the Holy Roman Empire, the emperor. It was his authority that made him king. So you see, the church is giving authority to the state, and then the state is driving out all competitions to the Pope. They're working together. The second beast gives life to the first political beast. If you do not worship the papacy and the churches of the second beast, you'll be punished by the first beast as a heretic. Anyone who stands against the second beast is worthy of death by the first beast, in other words. The Roman civil government will enforce the dictates of the Roman Church. The Roman Church will return the favor by making all its members receive the mark of the first beast, which is the Roman government. Verse 16, and he made all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Notice there's two places you can receive a mark, in the hand or the forehead. A mark signifies subjection or property. Those who are the property of the first beast receive the mark, such as when they mark themselves on Ash Wednesday. That's how we can really tell who's got the mark on their head, right? Which is the image of the Roman beast, government. You get the mark on your forehead. That means you're serving the Roman beast, government. The mark represents the fact that you're submitting your thoughts and deeds to their control. You're going to think what they tell you to think. The first beast requires its subjects to make their loyalty to the first beast visible. It is the Roman Church, of course, that imposes this mark, but this mark claims you as property to the Roman Empire. The mark upon the forehead shows allegiance to the first beast, and the mark upon the hand shows allegiance to the second beast. Verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath wit count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, or 666. So this mark is the recognized badge of loyalty to the civil rule, for it is the civil rule that can determine who gets to buy and sell. Those who refuse the mark are deprived of rights and privileges in the Roman Empire. Here we have the number of the beast, and that number is the number of both a kingdom, the Latin kingdom, and the number of a man, the Pope. And we are told that it has a numeric value, which is 666. First, we're told it's the number of the beast, the Latinus. So if you take the word Latinus, which is, I've spelled it there for you, that's Greek and Latin, and you add up the value of the letters, you end up with lambda 30, alpha 1, tau 300, epsilon 5, iota 10, nu 50, omicron 70, and sigma 200. You come to 666, and that's the number of the beast. But we're also told that it represents the number of a man, or the Pope. The phrase vicarius filii Dei, which is Latin for vicar or representative of the Son of God, and you all know when we say Antichrist, anti means substitute for Christ, is a phrase, by the way, that appears on the Pope's forehead or his hat. He wears it right on his forehead. It says substitute for Christ. It is a phrase first used in the forged medieval documents called the Donation of Constantines, which gave power to the first Pope. Now, if you attribute values to each of the letters in the phrase vicarius filii Deo, it also adds up to 666, and it is the number of the second beast that the second beast wears right on his forehead. And if you look at the front of your bulletin, I've got it laid out there for you. The vicarius has a value of 112, the filii has a value of 53, and the Dei has a value of 501, giving you 666. So when it tells us that 666 is the number of the Latin civil government, it spells out Latinus, and when it tells us it's the number of the Pope, it spells out the phrase that he has on his hat that says substitute for Pope. And so this chapter bears out the character and the nature of the true Antichrist. Let us pray. Amen.